This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geek, show number 389, recorded on February 6th, 2019. Home Gadget, let me try that one again. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios here in a very blustery, cold, and Mike, the polar vortex, which I don't know if a storm event has made that much news in a while. I mean, State of the Union, no. Polar vortex, yes.
It was
insane, right?
Yeah. We had, I think, Jim, we got to, our wind chills were crazy low, but I think our temperature even was like -14 without wind chill. Yeah. And then you add wind chill in -34. To bring it around to a tech angle real quick, I've never been able to integrate our weather intro to some tech. I got very scared this weekend, and I have not confirmed if it's fixed yet, but I looked outside. So after 2 whole days, so Jim, for our guests, I guess, who don't know, we went through this polar vortex. We had like -14, -34, 40 wind chill. Then the very next day, it was 50 degrees. So, a huge, massive swing. I look outside and I have that outdoor TV. It's an outdoor rated TV. And it looked like there was ice all over the front of the TV. My whole back patio is covered, so that never happens. This thing never gets wet, nothing. I go out there and the top layer of the film on the TV has bubbled all up. It is all bubbles. So it looks like it's covered in this sheet of bubbled glass or like ice, but it's all bubbled up. I'm like, it's ruined. Like the heat change caused the front to just bubble all up. So I'm like, well, okay. Lesson learned, I guess. If it ever gets that cold again, I'll pull it in. I'm like, okay, whatever. The next day, Jim, I go out there. It's perfectly fine. Like it shrunk back into place perfectly. Wow. I don't know what caused it, how that happened, but yeah, it bubbled entirely up. Now it's all back flat. I have not turned on. I'm like, I'm going to give it some time, let it really get, back to normal. I'm going to wait till the temperatures warm back up because now it's back to being, below freezing again here. But the oddest behavior I've ever seen for a screen like that to bubble up and then go right back to normal.
Yeah. Outdoor TVs take a beating. It's tough on those things. It'll be interesting to how old do you think that TV is now?
It's a fairly new TV. So it was there on the back patio when we bought the house. We bought it 2 years ago. It seems pretty new though. I would say it's really flat. It's 1080p. It's not 4K or anything like that.
It's pretty
outdoor.
Hefty.
It's hefty.
It's a nice hefty brand.
Yeah. So I'm guessing 4 years old, maybe 4 or 5. If that, they might have put that in honestly a year before we even moved in. I don't know. So it could be as new as probably 3 years.
Well, it'd be interesting to see. It's a tough, to have 100-point. Well, to count the wind chill, it was probably 70 if you think air temperature, but we swang in 24 hours, 70 degrees.
And that's
it's super
electronic.
Cold. And then it was foggy and really wet. And
yes, super humid.
What was really bizarre is we had about 4 or 5 inches of snow, maybe 3 to 4 inches of snow on the ground. And I never saw any of it run off, but it was in a day it was gone. Like the fog sucked it up.
It was super weird. It's almost like it all went into the air instead of on the ground. Yeah. I totally agree.
Yeah. So we're like clear as snow, and temperatures are back in the teens today, but we got some snow coming here. But yeah, Mike, it'll be interesting to see, whenever you put that kind of equipment outside. I have been thinking about putting some outdoor speakers. I bought some lights, some Christmas lights on clearance to put underneath the rails on the deck, a cheap way of I did look at some Hue rope lighting for that, but it was like $90 versus 79 cents because I bought the lights at clearance, right after Christmas. And I'm like, I think I'm going to go with 79 cents. So that stuff just takes a beating. I have put multiple, those little post lamp, solar lamps you would put on top of a post. And they're not very bright, but it's good enough at night, and they're supposed to stay on. Those things either wear out or the solar piece gets some film on the inside so fast, and then of course it doesn't work. It after that it can't get photovoltaic, I guess is what that's called. So I go through those things. Any kind of that tech. Do you have speakers out there as well, or is it just the speaker on the TV?
Yep. So there's There's 2 mounted on the wall. Those are Bose outdoor speakers, so those work fantastic. And those ones are tucked right up against the house under the overhang, so those are fine, and temperatures never affected them. And then we have just a cheap sound bar right below the TV where that's at. That seems to be working well too. But Jim, I guess after I've seen how well this TV has held in there with all of the weather we have, I think I will never put a regular TV out there. I will always go for the outdoor rated, because this one is outdoor rated, and I can see the reason why.
Yeah.
It can be rainy, wet, humid, hot, and this thing doesn't. The screen is perfect. It's great and all that weather.
Well, not unusual here in Nebraska to get a 60 or 70 degree swing in a day. We think of that in here on the plains, just not that unusual. So you do got to kind of think when you're thinking about your outdoor gear, whether it's a grill, TVs, sound equipment, whatever you're putting out there, it's going to be pretty tough. And you kind of think those nights, those cold nights, we're having some, and this is not tech related at all, but we're having some trouble with the ash borer. There's a beetle that's killing all of our ash trees.
Oh, really?
And it's kind of making its way across the Midwest, starting in Colorado, now in Nebraska, working its way across the Midwest. And almost every ash tree is going to die early because of these ash borers. And but they said it got so cold in some parts of the Midwest that they think it set back the ash borer, like all the larvae died because it got too cold.
Oh, interesting.
And you kind of think, oh, that's interesting. So anyways, super cold. And one of the reminders, if you're living here in the Midwest or anywhere where it gets really cold, watch your batteries, because if you leave a battery out in that kind of cold and it's got any kind of weakness in it at all, it's an older battery, you've used it a lot, that cold could absolutely just crush it. And the cars, when we had that morning where it was really, really cold, I always told people, okay, we're going to find out who needs new batteries, because the cold will just crush those batteries and kill cells or kill the battery itself. And it's just harsh. It's harsh weather, and you gotta guard your gear. Well, don't forget, you can get the show notes. We'll have some links to a lot of things we mentioned out there at thearchguy.tv. Don't forget, you can also listen to us on the mobile app if you haven't downloaded that yet. iPhone, Android. Just go to the store, search Home Gadget Geeks, download it. Super easy, super free. Want to thank our Patreon subscribers who are faithful every single month. And if you support us on Patreon doing it this way, thank you for doing that. I just appreciate it. We have the most steady Patreon providers in the world, which either you're super faithful or you forgot that you actually supported me on Patreon. So thank you for doing that. And appreciate your Patreon support out there. Brian Hour says, go ahead and let the batteries die. He needs the business. So Brian's in the battery business. So we appreciate you doing that. Full show tonight. Lots of good stuff to catch up on. Last week, first show we missed in a while, but thanks for giving us the week off. Busy webcasting at Gallup. I had 8 webcasts to do. The Monday afternoon show, 400 live, Mike. We get 15 or 20, and it's pretty awesome when we do it here. And we get folks Saturday mornings when I do Ask the Podcast Coach with Dave Jackson, we'll do 25 or 30. But to have 400 in a chat room, Mike, that's pretty crazy.
No kidding. I wouldn't know what to do. Were you having trouble with
it? Rolls fast.
Yeah, I was going to say, how fast it rolls.
They kind of regulate themselves in some ways, and it didn't ever get out of hand. But with 400, it absolutely could. And these are professionals. This is a business podcast. I'm not all that worried about those things, but it could get out of hand. So thanks for giving us the week off. Several of you contacted me either via email or Twitter and said, hey, caught up. So the week off, good job. You got caught up, and now it's time to stay current. Don't forget, we are live on Thursdays. If you want to come out and join us live, we'd appreciate that as well. Couple announcements right off the top. Cyber Frontiers 52 is out. Well, that's not really true. I'm still, as I'm saying this, but by the time you listen to it, we will have the next edition of Cyber Frontiers out. We catch up with Christian. He talks about where he's been and what he's doing with Amazon. So you might want to kind of catch up on that and some of the work he's done. Some pretty cool stuff. I'll be honest with you, Mike, I really didn't quite understand what he was doing. And even as he was talking, he had to kind of school me on it. By the end of the conversation, I kind of understood it. So if you had some questions, it's really cool. And it's not what you think, what he's doing at Amazon. So you want to check that out. And then we have a big, long conversation on AI. If you've been following our AI conversations, that may be one where He just probably has one of the most grounded opinions and thoughts about AI. Go out and check it out. Cyber Frontiers 52. You can get it off the website or subscribe to the actual feed if you want to get that way. And then a couple months ago now, but I talk about this guy all the time, Vint Cerf, right? One of the fathers of the internet. He and a couple guys helped found that at UCLA in 1976. I got a chance to interview him at Gallup, which is really, really cool. Kind of a dream come true for me. And it's a very Gallup related. We talk about one of our entrepreneurial assessment tools that we have. But Vint really talks about a lot of what he, in the role of an expert in some of the jobs that he's done, talks about some interesting technologies. One, I'll just give you a hint or a little sneak peek. He talks about they're now creating concrete that absorbs CO2. So, we have a little CO2 problem on the planet, right? We're producing too much of it. In current way they make concrete, it actually gives off CO2, but they've engineered it now to consume it like you would. So you would bury it inside concrete, which is kind of an interesting thought, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
So, global warming or not, an interesting conversation. If you go to theaverageguy.tv/Vint, VINT, theaverageguy.tv/Vint, that will take you to the video where we talk about that. I think you'll like it. Not at all like Home Gadget Geeks. Not at all. In fact, another host. I am just the producer of that one. I talk a little bit. I ask a few questions. Very, very different than Home Gadget Geeks. But if you are a tech guy and you're into the internet, that's probably 102% of my audience. I don't know where the other 2% came from, but that is I don't know, aliens maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder if we broadcast to space.
Babies in the womb, right?
Yeah. There you go.
For the ladies, who are pregnant ladies, there's your other 2%.
Mike, you restarted Suit and Scrubs. I forgot I didn't write that in the show notes, but it's super great. Talk a little bit about that for folks that maybe need another podcast to listen to.
Yeah, if you're looking for something, Suit and Scrubs is my wife and I's podcast. I'm a suit. I'm a lawyer. She's a scrub. She works in healthcare. Basically, that title just represents how different we are. We're just polar opposites. Our careers are polar opposites, but it makes our marriage great. So if you want to go out, it's kind of just a funny comedic perspective on parenting and marriage. We do some fun competitions. We talk about our life. So if you want to go to suitandscrubs.com, you guys can head out there and take a listen. Also on there, though, Hannah, so we started a blog on there as well, kind of a parenting marriage blog. I wrote our first entry last year. And then that's when we had started up the podcast again. Obviously, our second kid came. We had to take a hiatus. So Hannah just got us back into the game on the blog side as well. She wrote a dynamite article on essentially the struggles a mom goes through when thinking about, having a career outside of the home, right? So your career of being a mom, your career outside the home, and kind of, what it's like in the modern day of judging moms, and how that goes. So just a fantastic perspective that she gave in that article. So we're going to be doing a lot more blogging, podcasting over there. Our next podcast is due out here in a few days. So sticking with it, and it's a total blast. So yeah, hopefully you guys will come out and check out that. So suitandscrubs.com. We're also all over the social media pages at Suit and Scrubs.
I'm not going to give it away, but I am. You get totally schooled on that podcast, by the way.
I think I do. Yes, I totally do. Although we found out it was rigged later. It had something to do with NFL, and I was just failing on the teams there.
Well, yeah, it's a great podcast to listen to. I really enjoyed it. I laughed the whole time you guys were doing it. But Hannah's actually a really great podcaster.
She's
good at
Jim,
this.
don't tell her this, but she's the secret sauce. I'm just there. She makes the show. Yeah. She's fantastic.
Super great.
We did do a little competition on the latest episode where we took definitions or terms that we use in our careers. So in the legal field and in the occupational therapy field, and we quizzed each other on if we knew what the meanings were. So that was a fun little segment. I enjoyed that one.
It's a great companion podcast to this one.
Because they're totally different.
Yeah, no, but I just, it gives an inside look at you. You and I both talk tech.
Right.
And if you follow me at Gallup, a lot of we have some crossover. I have some coaches that follow me at Gallup, and a lot of the work that I do at Gallup is very much about me, me and what I do in my job and some of those kinds of things. So the work that I do with Clifton Strengths, we don't get that side from you a lot here, and to hear it just from a family perspective, I think it's really worth listening to. So get out there, resubscribe to it. Third time's a charm.
Third time's a
Well,
charm.
the second time really wasn't a time. You made one.
Well, it was a mistake. What was I thinking, Jim? Hannah, we addressed it in the show, but we started it up in November. Our second kid was due in December. I do not know what we were doing to think that we could start up a podcast.
I don't know. So, you thought you'd be a Twitch guy too, and that really hasn't gone anywhere.
Realized that was
no, it's all good. So check that out. Student Scrubs, some good stuff. We asked for pictures of your racks, and it took us a couple weeks, but the pictures started pouring in on Facebook this week. And let me say, there are some good looking racks. I've been wanting to say that for a long time. You guys have some great looking racks, and everything from, and you got to be in the Facebook group. So facebook.com/groups/the average guy. Get you in. Just jump in there. I know I don't do Facebook. Well, just do Facebook for one thing, our group. Okay. You can block don't even have friends. Don't let anybody friend you. Just be in the group, right? And so a few of you, and I thought about even posting them on the website, but I didn't necessarily. As we were interviewing Paul Barrerin the other week, he was showing an app and it had his address, and he was like, "Hey, I got a lot of equipment here. I don't know if I necessarily want to be telegraphing my address." It's not hard to find people, right, online and such, but I appreciate your transparency as you post these things online. I do want to be careful. In our Facebook group, it's fairly locked down. Like, it's just really, I don't know, a couple hundred guys. I know most of them. They had to have permission to jump in there. And so that's a little bit better. But I do appreciate those that have security concerns about putting all that stuff out there. That being said, we got everything from a loaded rack with everything like boxes and equipment. And I think Tim posted, he doesn't really have a rack. He just has his TV, and it's more like the entertainment center is where everything is at. For him, John showed us all of the boxes and the computers and stuff. Mike, did you see anything out there interesting?
Oh yeah, tons. I love them all. If I had to pick a favorite so far, Joe's post was, his is so clean. He's got a rack, and he's got even some devices in there that are really hard to cable manage. He's got a coax splitter, goes into 2 HD home runs, and I think if I'm looking at it right, they're almost zip tied up and down onto this back plate. It looks super clean. He's got obviously the patch panel. He's got everything, and so his was super clean looking. I appreciated all of them for different reasons. For him though, overall, just he integrated a lot of different stuff in there, some non-typical rack mount gear into the rack, and so I really enjoyed his. But I loved them all. I mean, they were great. I know that Tim's was cool. John, I love John's because John is exactly the type that I think most people could do, right? Like, take something that maybe isn't, like, you don't have to spend a bunch of money on an IT rack, right? Like, I think, Jim, you do the same thing, where you use this storage rack, and it works great. You can store a bunch of stuff on there.
Pretty sure there's a VCR or two in there.
There is.
There might be a DVD player that I see.
On that one. And then Ben's also. I really liked Ben's because his is in a spot in his house where he actually ran a lot of his lines too. So he's kind of like me. He picked a central spot that he can get all of his wall jacks run to. That's the one reason my rack is where it's at, is because that was naturally for this house where all of the lines came to, for phone lines and for coax. So I just went there, and then I ran my own wall plates and ran my own cable and did the same thing. So it worked out pretty well. So yeah, these were all great. If we didn't mention you, we definitely saw them and loved seeing loved seeing your rack.
Well, from a couple weeks ago, Justin threw a couple from his workplace, and has a 6-monitor setup. I think I've posted my workspace, my podcast studio at work before. And I know I've posted the podcast studio here before. He had a 6-monitor setup, and then a bunch of equipment being a bunch of Apple equipment going in for the schools there. Justin.
Yeah. And then Brian obviously has, I think, the record for some of the coolest, most retro gear on his rack. That was a pretty cool one as well.
Yeah. So appreciate you guys, you doing that. Mike has posted his, I posted mine. I think that kind of covers the gamut. We'd love to see yours if you want to still post that out there. But Mike, all this chat of Unraid and racks and servers got me kind of thinking again. And so over the weekend, I was doing some
Start thinking now, Jim.
Dude, I know.
We're getting ourselves into trouble here.
It's about to. This is when I usually break stuff.
Right.
This is usually when I lose data. It's not like I don't lose data from an accident. I lose it because I'm like, I'm going to set up a new server, you know. And
disks don't fail. We just make them fail by moving stuff around.
But I had my HP N40L, which is a notoriously slow server. It's not very big. It's got nice it's got 4 bays in it, plus you can extend that out to put more drives in there. I've got an SSD in there to help speed it up, but I mean it has an awful processor. It's not really good at anything. What it is good at is storage, though. It's got plenty of base space. You can do a lot of things with it. You could put Windows on it or Linux on it. I could put Unraid on it if I wanted to. I mean, there's a lot of things you could do with that. And I wasn't going to do Unraid because you did Unraid. And I was like, you know what? It's time to build the 2019 home server. Like, I haven't done that in a long time. And Kyle's comment to me the other day, I think it was in chat, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was talking about the Moro data box, right? We had those guys on, Paul from Moro Data, great box, a terabyte of storage that's local and cache, SSD in this case. And then everything else, and I have probably another terabyte of data that's beyond that, gets pushed up to B2. We've talked about that before, Backblaze B2, and it's up there. But Kyle was like, that's not really backup. And he was right that the data that I have on the B2 servers, I only have in one place on the B2 servers. And if something were to happen to Backblaze for whatever, they stop service, right? I can't get to Backblaze. Those files are gone, and I don't have them anywhere locally. I put them on the Moro data box. Moro data pushed them up to B2, and Mike, I was like, yikes! Actually, he's 100% right. So I felt a little convicted, not really, but a little convicted. Like, hey, I should probably make sure I have those files here somewhere else. I had a lot of things running burst, and I was like, I could probably pull some of that storage in, some of those hard drives in, and so I took 2 1 terabytes in a 750, took Windows 10, put it on the box, got those going, bought another copy of StableBit Drive Pool for $15. By the way, pro tip, if you already own StableBit Drive Pool and you go to buy another license, there's an option when you're buying it to put your existing license in, and it goes from $30, which is a freaking steal, by the way. Like $30 for this software, super worth it, to $15. Because it's only $15 for each license you own beyond the first one. I was thinking you had to buy them at the same time to get that price. Nope. If you own a license, you put it in, $15 to get another copy. So now I'm up to 3 copies of StableBit Drive Pool here, doing those. One of the great things about that, I talked about it, is you can put your email address in, and if any of those drives go offline for any reason, it just emails you, and it works perfectly. I mean, I've been using it on these 2 boxes, and I've been messing around with those boxes and their drives over the last week. Tore one down and kind of built it back up as a burst box, moved some drives around. It was notifying me all the time. In fact, I got about 20 emails. Hey, I can't see the drive. Yeah, okay, just relax. I took it down. It'll be fine. So StableBit Drive Pool, put all the redundancies on so that it's backing things up. Put Windows on it, exposed it through an advanced sharing feature. It shows up on the network. It's another drive. It doesn't have the backup features that you would get from home server, but it is that kind of same thing we were looking for back in the day, to be able to put files that are duplicated, in this case 3 times on those drives, and gives me a little storage. What's great about it is it just does file. All it does is storage. It's a great box for that. It doesn't need a lot of horsepower,
right,
to do storage, right? And
but
go ahead.
If you've got a kind of CPU limited machine, I would actually think that would be the perfect use case for something like Unraid.
Yeah,
because
except you already did that.
Yeah, but you don't have all the overhead of Windows 10. Windows 10 has a lot of overhead that it's using for a bunch of random stuff that you have no idea what it is. Yeah. And with Unraid, you could just fire up a VM of Windows 10 if you ever needed it. So
I didn't do it for 10. I did it because I know 10 really well, for one.
Yeah, true.
And
I guess,
so,
I mean, if you're using it just for storage, it does what it does.
Piece of cake. It actually does what it does. It really is a nice, and Windows Home Server was really nothing more than Windows under the hood.
Right.
Windows Server, which is really not still Windows, right? Those 2 OSs are very similar. So it was kind of fun. And then I've been taking all the files that are on the Moro data box, finding the ones that are local, so I don't have to download them yet. Now I'm gonna have to pay when I start pulling down the ones that are on the B2 box, because they're in cold storage. They don't charge you to upload them. They do charge you, I think it's a penny. It's a penny a gig or something. It's not very much. But with B2, it's pretty cheap. But it's still going to cost me probably 10, 15 bucks to get all that data back over time. One of the tools I did find to get that done, though, this was really, really cool. Back in the day, we were big SyncToy fans. And I actually thought about using SyncToy as a software application to sync between the two, to move them over. Right. Make sure you want to use a sync tool, make sure they get there. It kind of tracks it, all those other things. But like SyncToy has not been developed since like 2009. And it wanted a .NET 2.0 framework. And I'm like, I just don't want .NET 2.0. I don't want that. That's an old version. I'm not interested in it. So I went with SyncBackFree, all one word, SyncBackFree. And free version they have a paid version that you can use. The paid version's got some more functionality, stuff I didn't need. It on the free version, FTP or files, you can do either way. Super easy to go in and select. In fact, as I'm selecting files to move or to sync, it'll tell me if it's on that device or if it's just a shadow of it on that device, right? So when it's backed up to B2, the file header is there, but the file isn't. That's how that kind of works. So it tells me, yep, files here, gives me an A status, and AO status means it's not there in SyncBackFree. Rock solid. It's been great on that box. That thing actually, performance-wise, has been pretty good. File write speeds aren't the greatest. Those are green drives, and it's a slow processor. I don't care. I'm moving those things over and filling that thing up, and have been getting rebuilding, so to speak. I think I'm actually going to need to put another drive in there too. I'm going to fill that thing up with all the files I'm moving over. But a pretty great, and it, as I went to bed the other night, I'm like, okay, I have another copy of my data locally. The beauty of this is once it's synced, if it doesn't find the file on the source, just does nothing at that point. So it's perfect for me because those things are going to be backed up and go into again, they're going to be backed up to B2. There's going to be a shadow copy. That's not really what it's called, but a placeholder for that file. It will go to find it. It'll just say it's a placeholder. It'll just ignore it.
It's like a permalink, I think, to the B2 version of that.
Yeah. On that box, if I wanted to go get that file that was only on B2, but it's the placeholder is on the box, it just goes and grabs it and downloads it. And you just wait for it. And when it's there, it just does its thing. Pretty great little box, but a good limitation, or a good catch, Kyle, on the limitation there. And I did a lot of thinking about that, Mike. I was kind of like, okay, what are the chances B2 is going to go under? Or Backblaze is going to go under? I don't know. What were the chances Crash Plan was going to change their service plans, right? We didn't anticipate that. And if we're really going to be good stewards of those files, I need to really have a local copy. And I may even move those around and do some things locally here where I've got a copy on that. And then maybe I push those to the Drobo. It's just another instance as well. Once I get those built up, they don't take any more space, right? Couple terabytes isn't that much space when I have 68 terabytes of space available in the house, right? You kind of start thinking of things differently when you see that. So kind of cool. So thanks. I mean, in some ways, Mike, you with going Unraid got me kind of thinking again, like, boy, it'd be nice to have a Windows server, so to speak, right? Running in the house.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm down. That sounds super cool. And I like the way you synced those across, because when you started to mention, I was like, oh man, what tool would I even use? I've been looking for a need. I don't have a need for it, but for Resilio Sync, which is the new version of BitTorrent Sync, I've heard really good things about that. I've never had an opportunity to check it out, though. I don't know if it would have fulfilled your needs on this project, but something I've been wanting to check out. Resilio is Resilio. Kind of an interesting tool.
Yeah, everybody kind of has as I was looking into this again, everybody kind of has their own sync favorites, and there's a bunch of different ways to do sync. And actually a lot of those backup, what's really, really interesting as we were in those home server days, as everybody was kind of building, those were the days when when, companies like Carbonite and Backblaze were really new. I mean, they were just starting to come online, a couple years old. And a lot of that backup and sync stuff was kind of reserved for the enterprise. And we were out ahead of the curve, so to speak, of testing all those things out. I mean, I've done some massive work on all the cloud storage options that are out there as well. But that's the one I went with, and worked out pretty well. Let us know. Let me know what your favorite sync tool is. I'm always interested in that. I like this one. But if you've got a better one, I'll leave a link to the one I'm using in the show notes. Again, that is SyncBackFree. Kind of a weird name. It almost smells like spam, or it
I was just
smells
going to
like
say, it sounds spammy.
Yeah. No, it's all legit, or at least it was for me. Nothing set off. The alarm bells did not get set off when I downloaded and use it. But Kevin says out in the chat room, always sync. Still has some good use cases, and Sync Toy still works. That's the crazy thing about Microsoft. Still has it available on their websites, and you can do that. Mike, you got something here about an ISP in Lincoln. I don't quite understand what you're saying there, but talk a little bit about that story.
So this is the one, actually, Jim, I wanted to issue a little tech challenge to everyone, because this is one of those where I had a problem and I honestly was so baffled until I found the right article on Google and until I entered the right search terms on Google. So here in Nebraska, in Lincoln, there is a new ISP that has come around called Allo. I think I'm saying that right, ALLO. Fantastic ISP. They're fiber. They're in Lincoln. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law, they have Allo. They are getting, I want to say, gigabit speeds for half the price that I'm paying for Cox. I mean, just ridiculously low. I think it's gigabit for like $50 a month or something. I mean, just ridiculously low speeds. So we've been playing Xbox a lot. He got an Xbox, we've been playing, and he is constantly having connection issues to get into our games, and voice chat, it'll kick him out. We can't invite him, things like that. Well, I know that traditionally on the Xbox, that is a NAT issue, right? On the Xbox, you need to have open NAT, and if you have anything like moderate or strict, that can cause problems. And especially with a game like Call of Duty really likes to have a special port, 3075, that it can open up and everything, and it'll work. So I said, okay, no problem. Next time I go down, I know how to fix this. The network, that's usually super easy. I'll port forward, or I'll turn on UPnP, or in the off chance, I'll put you in the DMZ, right? So we have some options here. I went down there, logged into their router. Well, first of all, I got on the Xbox, and it says you have double NAT. Now, for those of us who are techie and networking, most of us know that double NAT would mean that somehow he has two routers in the house that are both natting, and it's causing issues before getting out. So I'm like, okay, this is weird. Maybe they have I set up all their technology. So I'm like, well, maybe they changed something. Maybe they added a second router. Maybe they added a wireless access point that's in router mode behind their first modem router. No, the Xbox was plugged straight into the modem that they got from Allo, but it's saying double NAT. So that was my first little trigger that this might not be something I can control. So I got into the router, I logged in to the modem router provided by Allo, tried UPnP, still double NAT. Tried port forwarding, still double NAT. Tried putting it in the DMZ, still double NAT. Like, nothing was working, and he was constantly getting moderate NAT settings, which was in the Xbox world, in Call of Duty world especially, you're going to have issues connecting to other people who have moderate settings. So come to find out, after a little bit of Google foo, so this is where I would have issued the challenge to you guys. After hearing those facts, I had no idea what to do. I was like, I've never seen double NAT with one router in the house. Like, I just didn't even think I hadn't experienced it yet. So obviously I hadn't Googled it. So apparently this was my first experience, and Allo just made the switch, because I should have told you guys too. This recently started happening with him about 2 months ago. They've had Allo for about half a year. It was fine. Then all of a sudden it changed. So Allo is switching their entire network over to what is called carrier grade NAT, or CGN for short. So I had never heard of this. So essentially what they are doing is, instead of giving each home its own public IP address, they are essentially doing natting on their end as well. So they're taking a public IP, and then they're issuing a lot of private IPs to a large section of homes in the neighborhood. It allows them to use less public IPs. And Jim, I'm guessing this is how they cut costs. I'm guessing this is a way that they don't need as many public IPs. And so it allows them, they're doing natting, and then the home is also doing the nap. But, so, okay, that's great. But there are so many other ways that I think they could have done this. They could have either done IPv6. IPv6 was not an option in the router. That just solves all the issues if you're going to do that. I've never seen someone do a double NAT because it wreaks havoc for people who are trying to do anything with hosting at home. I love this service, but if I lived down there, Jim, this wouldn't be an option for me because think about it. You can't do any sort of port forwarding. So good luck getting a VPN back to your home because you do not have a public IP. You can't use dynamic DNS, so you couldn't use like a duck DNS service to even tell the outside world what your public IP address is because you don't have one. You have a private IP from your ISP. So just a very odd implementation. Not really sure why Allo has done it this way. Come to find out, you can pay a little bit extra and get yourself a public IP. So I think it's like $5 extra a month. My brother and sister-in-law are like the opposite of tech people. They just want it to work. They don't care. Like, I'll deal with it, whatever. We can just hop back in the game after we get kicked out. It's no big deal. I'm not going to pay $5 extra. But just a very interesting implementation from an ISP. And I had never heard of carrier grade NAT. They said it was kind of similar to how essentially the wireless carriers do it. So your Verizons, your AT&T, your Sprints, apparently that is kind of how it all started. But since then, I think a lot of the wireless carriers use IPv6 for a lot of their stuff to issue those addresses out. So yeah, not sure why you would go with this carrier grade NAT instead of doing IPv6. I also don't know why you wouldn't just give each house a public IP like every other ISP out there. Jim, you and me, it might change. It's not static. We don't pay for a static IP, but we have a public IP attached to our homes, attached to that modem. And that was not the case here. So super frustrating that I didn't figure that out till the very end. I was racking my brain, and then the correct Google term finally got me onto an article on Reddit, actually. So thank goodness for Reddit, of someone talking exactly about this issue.
This might be a small town internet problem too, because so these guys, Allo, are actually a division of Nelnet. And
yes,
if you know
exactly.
Nelnet, right? Nelnet is famous, at least here in the Omaha area, for college loans. Nelnet does a lot of college servicing. Nelnet was actually a startup here in Lincoln from some students out of University of Nebraska at Lincoln. They're super famous in that college, anyways. And but they service the areas they service: Grand Island, Kearney. Some of the outlying. When we think of the small rural Nebraska towns that are available, that's Scottsbluff, Ogallala, North Platte, Gering. Those are Fort Morgan out in Colorado. So it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, that's a challenge to run IP services or ISP services in small towns anyways. Anybody who's tried to own an ISP in a small town just knows those things are not profitable at all. And most of your customers are like that. They just don't care. They're like, why doesn't this thing just work? And so no surprise, actually, kind of thinking about it like, okay, so they're trying to cut some corners here to make it profitable. Lincoln is, Lincoln's it's our state capital, but it's still pretty small in regards to actually population. So interesting. Yeah. How many hours do you think you burn on that?
Not too many. I was down there, we kind of gave up on it. I was playing around with it probably an hour and a half, 2 hours, playing with different settings, seeing if we could get it to work. But just nothing was getting it up and running.
Well, it's there's always those challenges. I'm sure we've heard certainly Cox has got its things going on. Comcast, Verizon, they've got all their big problems. Small town internet. One, you're super grateful to even have it sometimes,
right.
And two, you're just super happy it works, when you do get it. Mike, this week I've been listening to a lot. I've said this a couple of times, but I've been listening to Richard and Josh over at Entertainment 2.0 a bunch, as well as Rich Hay, Windows Observer. And both of them have mentioned the Windows 7 is, we're a year away. This may be the longest year in the world when it comes to Windows 7 support, because a year from now, take some change away from that, where we are on the 365 downhill slide to Windows 7 support. I'd actually be interested in hearing from you. If you still have a Windows 7 box, and what are you using it for? We have one in the living room. Media Center is on it. it is still Media Center it just runs so well. Like it is so great. It's perfect for Sarah. It does exactly what she needs to do. We've talked about that here on the show before. But I've been prepping her for like, hey, okay, Windows 7 support, it's done in a year. TV Guide may go away in a year. Do we have to do anything now? No. But for the last year, I've been trying to make Plex work. And if you've been listening to Dave McCabe over at Reset, I think he's tried it and dropped that about 18 times in the last 5 or 6 years. I think most recently he's tried it and dropped it again. I've been paying for it for at least a year, maybe 2 years, using their DVR, running them through Silicon Dust tuners. I have two tuner cards, so 4 in the house. Some success. They have some guide data now, blah, blah, blah. But Mike, I don't know what got into me. I was thinking about a podcast you and I had done maybe 6 months ago. And you're like, Jim, you got to try this YouTube TV thing. Right. So I got home from listening to the podcast. I'm like, I'm going to give this YouTube TV a try. Right. 14-day trial. And you can try it for free, $40 a month. Right. I think that's going to stop some people when you think about it. But Mike, put that thing on. Well, signed up for the service, accessed it through the Xbox, got it on the computer, got it on my phone, put it on the Shield. Listen, on the NVIDIA Shield, it is freaking awesome, freakishly awesome. Like it's incredible. It works out really, really well on the Shield. And I kind of started thinking $40
could be a new addition to the budget.
Well, I'm already spending $5 a month on Plex. So We're down to $35. And then I think about all the storage that I have, and the maintenance of it and keeping it up and keeping it going. And then I thought about this. YouTube TV, ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU. And here in the Midwest, the Big Ten network.
Yep. Fox Sports, CBS SN. Because that's what I'm watching the Creighton game on right now. CBS SN is on there. I mean, they have every single. The only thing you will not get that, well, and this won't bother you because you've never had it, but like NFL Red Zone this past season, apparently they've been trying to get it. They don't have NFL Network or NFL Red Zone, but may come. So,
I kind of like. I'm kind of thinking, Mike. It's like, okay, we may not bite right now. Like, I don't know if I still have a need. Everything is still working. I don't know if she wants to change. Right. I don't need to watch more TV. It's the worst sports season that starts like
right
Super
now,
Bowl ends. Worst sports season is now to baseball. Right. And, pitchers and catchers. That's what we start counting down the days to pitchers and catchers. So, but yeah, I'm giving it some serious thought. The one drawback that I'm thinking, by the way, guide data is great. One of the things I hate about Plex is it takes so long to get the channel. And I'm a channel surfer. So like commercial happens. I want to immediately move to another channel. Like boom, 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 boom. I'm moving. In Plex, can you do it? Yes. Is it clean? No. Like it takes a while. And I'm running on a super fast box. And it takes a while for that thing to click over.
And I don't think that'll ever be fixed, to be honest, because it's got to tell HD home run to tune to a different channel. It's just there is that integration right there. I think that's why it's so slow.
Yeah. $40 worries me because it's not $40 today. It's, Netflix just raised their price. Hulu did some changes in their pricing recently. You kind of go, how soon till that's 45? And then 50, and then 75, and you start going, damn, I could just have done cable. If cable's still more expensive, but
it is way more expensive especially for all the lineup you get. Plus, Jim, I think have you used the cloud DVR yet? Part of YouTube.
So I scheduled things to record. Like that's in quotes, right? It's not recording it. It's just they're ear tagging, right?
No, it is because it's pulling in. If you do your local network channels, you get your local commercials.
Really?
So I don't know how they're doing it. They have tuners in each region, I'm guessing, because you put in your city and it has to be a city that's in their system. And then so like I can record the news in Omaha on YouTube TV.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy. So it
and
is.
it's your version. That's the kind of thing I'm thinking. They got to do some economies of scale where if you
I'm
set the
sure.
news to record and I set the news to record, it records at one time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm guessing they have a DVR in each kind of region that's just recording this stuff, and you get access to that file essentially.
Right.
But yeah, you're adding that stuff to the library, and you can watch it on anywhere, on any device. It's not tied to a box. The DVR feature on that is top notch, and the fact that you can record cable channels. Jim, until you've said it, I don't know why I still use so much Plex recording on TV. Instead of we have YouTube TV, but we only use YouTube TV for the cable channel aspect of things. We still watch everything else on Plex, but I didn't really think about that. But yeah, that's the best part about it. You get any device, anywhere, your DVRs with you, wherever you go. It's great.
But I think those recordings are only available, only in quotes, 9 months. So I think, so I think that's a limitation. You're going to have some guys and gals who are going to be like, no, I recorded this thing. I want it forever. Or I want to create I'm creating my own box set of the series to go back and watch it whenever I want. I do think that's a serious limitation where I think you're only going to get, now 9 months is a long time to go watch it.
Right.
But if you want to keep series information, this is probably not going to do that for you.
I don't know what really would, though.
Well, Plex would, for sure.
Well, right? Plex is your local channels.
Yeah. Right on. Yeah.
But then it's yours, right? Yeah. But
no, right on. And what I'm thinking though, for streamers, true streamers, you're going to watch it and record the real-time stuff as it's happening, right? And then you're going to end up on Netflix or Prime or Hulu to get the series, the TV series after they've aired live, right? So exactly. Right now, or what's the new Star Trek one? That's not Star Trek. It starts with an O. Why can't I remember that? I don't know. Anyways, it's in its second season. You can't get the first season on YouTube because it's already somewhere else. Okay. And so I'm going to need a streaming. If I want to watch the first season of it, New Girl would be another one where those seasons are available on Netflix right now. So I got to go watch season Orville. Yeah, that's the one we were looking for. Thanks, guys. Discovery is the new Star Trek. That would have been a correct answer too. But we think about that. CBS All Access is one channel. You can record CBS shows unlimited YouTube TV, right?
Right.
As well as NBC and ABC and all the other, Fox, all the other channels. So, man, Mike, it's a tough one not to kind of take seriously. And at $40, it's not a fly by night. It's kind of one of those things you're like, I kind of think they thought about it. And I think they kind of priced it in the right spot.
Well, it had to be low enough for people to bite the bullet and switch from cable. And it is, right? It's much lower. Yeah. And I can't really think of a reason, if you like those sport channels, 40 isn't bad.
No. Well, and to get the Big Ten Network, like Sarah this year, she's like, hey, are the Huskers on? And I'm like, oh, they're on the Big Ten Network.
Yeah.
Guess we'll have to go to DJ's, which isn't always bad.
But it costs you. You'll spend the meal.
That'll be $40 right there,
exactly.
right?
That's $40 right there. And the other cool thing, Jim, is you can also share YouTube TV with your family. So up to 6 members. So you invite, let's say, your kids, if they have a Gmail account, you just invite them, add them to your family. They can watch as well. So you could make it less than 40. If you and your son want to split it, then it's 20/20. Your son, your daughter want to split it, then you've got, you could split it up with someone and make it a little bit cheaper.
I just make them buy the beer when they come over.
That'll be the
difference.
Jim. Really, when you think about it.
Just don't tell YouTube. I'm sure that's in their user agreement that I can't charge for people to come watch these things. Well, Mike, it's another option, and it's got me seriously thinking. Kind of like, I actually deleted Plex off my main box here.
Oh, interesting.
I was kind of like, well, I don't know if I need Plex anymore. And I have plenty of ways to get to Plex if I want to do it that way. But I'm not watching a lot of TV. So this is another factor. It's kind of like I could just watch it. I've been watching, and actually there's some shows that find their way onto YouTube. right? So you can just
Yep.
watch them there. So I've been watching on, I think it's on Hulu. I've been watching Hunting Hitler. I think that's what it's called. And they're going back and doing an investigation of Hitler's travels from Germany.
I've heard of this, but it's a show on Discovery, isn't it?
It is, but I think it's made its way to Hulu now.
Okay.
Yeah. Discovery Channel. No, History Channel. It's a History Channel show.
History Channel.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you're into those kind of conspiracy theory, techno, because they're using a ton of tech. Like if you're into these Mystery Channel shows and then you want to add it with just the most tech that you could find in a show, like they're doing ground radar, they're doing all kinds of aerial surveillance. This guy's running a program so there's all these declassified documents from the 40s on Hitler.
Yeah, what brought it out is like those became declassified at some point, so that triggered them to make the show, right?
Yeah. So this guy put all these documents in. He had created this application just for these things of finding for cold cases and finding these things where you load in tons of documents, and then it does some things to show locations or show people or tie things together. It's super cool what they did. But yeah, that's kind of what kicked it off. And a pretty cool, like, the premise, okay, it's cool. I mean, he's dead now. So it's not like we're going to find him alive down in Argentina, right? Yeah. He's dead. But that being said, the technology they're using to get this thing is pretty cool. That is one of those things, streaming on Hulu. And, you're just going to, although as a Sprint customer, there's not a lot of great things about being a Sprint customer. One is you get free Hulu. So that's not bad. $6.
Many people know about that. My dad still, their whole family's on Sprint. And he was telling me about that. That's a cool little perk of being on Sprint. I mean, that's $10 a month.
Yeah. SP says Vikings on the History Channel for the win. Yeah, that's another. God, there's so many good those History Channel or history shows that have taken technology and are using all this new technology to discover things. Pretty great. I mean, it's just they're pretty awesome. So I've kind of gotten into I've also been watching, what's the name of it? It's an older show from a couple years ago, but it would be like, what would happen if every human disappeared? What would happen to the planet? Like, how would, plants take over, animals? How would things return to it? I don't know what gets me interested in those things, Mike, but
it's those rabbit holes you get down. Kind of like
oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, I think, well, we're going to talk some more about it. Sarah had a little surgery on Monday, so she's not really up to talking much about those things, but I think that it's going to be an option that I'm going to float around out there for a while. I've got another week on the 14-day trial. Definitely worth, if you just do the 14-day, it'll take a credit card, but you can cancel it. I think it's worth giving it a look if you're a big sports guy or gal. If you miss some of those cable channels, by the way, different in every location. So make sure you go to YouTube, tv.youtube.com, and put in your zip code, and it'll tell you all the channels that are available to you there. They're different by region. Right. You want to say something?
Well, I was going to say, for the techie, it's probably a little bit harder of a decision because we have other options. If you are someone who is still paying for cable, you should really consider, like, I think, Jim, our listeners who are paying for any sort of cable service, those I think are the listeners that should give it a shot. Go plug it in, see what channels are there. Yeah, you're going to give up some channels like HGTV, not on there. NFL Red Zone, supposedly coming next season, who knows? But if you're paying for cable, give it a check, because I was itching. I could not wait for my 2-year agreement with Cox to be up, and it came up last July, and I switched instantly, and that cut $100 out. I was paying like $100. I was paying $110 just for some of the cable stuff, because you got to think, every box in your home for cable, that's like $5 a month, so that's $15, $20 depending on how many TVs you have. Plus they gouge you on every single package. So YouTube, it's a flat fee. That's also what I like about it, except for I think you can add Showtime in maybe for an extra fee.
They do have some add-ins now. There's like 15 add-ins. So,
are there really?
Yeah.
Okay. But for the most part, like all those sports channels are not in their own tier, things like that. So yeah, kind of nice.
SP mentions the name of that show, Life After People. And you can get that on YouTube, by the way. You don't have to go anywhere to get that. I've been watching that straight on YouTube, where you can kind of find some of those things that made their way to YouTube. It has been, I don't know, I'm fascinated by it. So in the Facebook group this week, Kevin, or I think it was last week, Kevin Schoonover, who does this all the time, shared as a new, not really new, but a Zmodo cam. They're called the Pivot, Pivot. The Pivot. It was $50, normally $99. I can't not jump. It's 1080p. It's 360 camera. Here's the box. I actually have it set up in the living room right now, and a good little camera. The motor in it's a little noisy, but the camera quality is good. It's almost has a 180 angle on the camera itself. So is that thing like, I don't even, in a lot of cases, have it sitting in the living room. I've been spying on Sarah. She doesn't know it, but actually she does. She goes, "Are you going to spy on me with that thing?" Yep.
Yes, I am.
Yep. Yes, I am. Actually spying on the cat. But a good little, if you were going to have a device in the house where you wanted to be able to control it or see a wide angle on it or get access to it remotely, they got a good little app. Zmodo was on the show a couple months ago, back in the summer. I have that cam that they gave me that actually is watching the front door. That cam and this Pivot share the same app, which is really cool to have both on one. I'm gonna probably move it around. I actually thought about bringing it down here and putting it up on the shelf up here and having it see the whole basement area down here. I have a lot of equipment down here, right? 16 gig of memory on there. It's got cloud options as well. If you want to pay, there's a service you can buy on $20 or something a month where you can pay to have those stuff stored in the cloud, or I think you can store it locally for $50. Kevin, thanks. Oh, by the way, humidity, temperature as well. It tracks that over time, which is kind of interesting. It's got a two-way intercom on it, so you can push a button and talk through to somebody. If you had an older parent, grandparent that you wanted to be able to talk to them through the app, check in on them, this would be great, especially in rooms where you need 360 coverage. The motor is not the quietest. I think I mentioned that. It is a Bluetooth speaker, which is interesting as well. I haven't tried. Well, dude, it's only this big. Like, so how good is that speaker?
And the speaker's probably a tiny part of that.
But a cam sitting by a chair and somebody just wants to have some music playing or a podcast playing, like they don't care. I mean, super convenient.
How big is it?
Size-wise?
Yeah, size-wise.
About half this. This is almost real size right
here.
So
like a pop can?
Yeah, a little bigger than a pop can.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect analogy. I think if you see these again and you're interested, for $50, it's a buy. I'm going to give it a buy rating on it.
If I remember correctly, the Zmodo ones, they do not have like an RTSP stream or anything that you can put into the Sighthound or Blue Iris, right?
Correct. Yeah, no, you are definitely doing it on the app only.
Okay.
Type piece, but they've been making really good equipment.
No kidding. Now it's an ecosystem you could totally get into with all the different product offerings, and for the prices that these cameras are coming out at, this could be your camera ecosystem.
Yeah, it even came with 2 door sensors as well in the box. So if you want to put those on there, it's got some, it's got here's the actual sensor. These are a little big. I'm not going to.
Yeah, those are a little big.
Here's your sensor, and there's. A little big for those. I'm not putting them up in the house here because we're going to be moving at some point, and I really don't want to tear these things down. But it does for $50. Not only do you get the Pivot, you get 2 door sensors with it. You can pair those together, and there's some things in the app you can do to say, hey, when this door opens, turn the camera towards that door, and you can kind of teach it to do. It's got. In the app, you can kind of say only monitor these sections for movement. If you want, like, hey, I only like the front door is here. I only want you to do anything if you see motion in this area.
Okay.
Type deal. So, pretty cool, Mike. I think it's if you missed this one, maybe there'll be others, but if you see deals come up on that, I'm kind of liking the Zmodo brand. It's one of those easy to use apps, work well. I still need to work on getting it saving all the, anything when it senses, saving all that someplace I can actually get to it and use it if I need it. That I've tried these cameras and then I look at them live. Oh, that's cool. Right. I can see the sun or whatever. Right. So pretty cool. No, so Kevin, thanks for dropping that in the,
no kidding. I love those deals he's been posting. And also another huge shout out. I just want to thank Tony Rayner has been just killing it on Twitter. He actually got Unraid to retweet to tweet out about our podcast. That was awesome because he mentioned, and he's just been super complimentary on Twitter. So Tony, thanks for everything you've been doing for us and the promotions you've been doing. And that was really cool to have Unraid, take an interest in the podcast. And I know that all of our Unraid fans here, we're pretty excited to hear that.
Mike, you got to reach out to him and see if they got an expert that'll come on the show.
That'd be fantastic.
You should since you're the Unraid guy, you've been doing it. Shoot them a note. If they say no, they say no. But I bet we could get somebody from there. I mean, we're talking about it enough. Give that if you're comfortable with that. Somehow this showed up back in the basement. The egg minder. So I bought this about a year and a half ago, and it sat on my kitchen table for like, I don't know, a year. And I cracked the seal on the box right there. You kind of see that's as far as I got on opening this thing. We kind of made fun of it. I think I got it for $6. Remember, the egg minder was a Wink product that was Wi-Fi controlled, and it would tell you when you ran out of eggs.
And it was kind of at the beginning of that whole smart home time.
Like, is it really that serious of a problem that you need to know when you've run out of eggs?
Yeah.
So anyways, Sarah found it somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where she found it, but it showed up on my desk, and I was like, oh my gosh. It even has an indicator light that shows which egg is the oldest by when you
really from the time you put it in. Yeah. That's okay. That feature might actually be useful.
Talk about a niche that didn't really need to be filled.
Yeah, no.
Because I don't know about you, but do you have eggs that sit around long enough to even care about?
We do, because we go in spurts of when we use eggs. Because Emmett's allergic, so it's really a select time that we'll get out an egg and use it. It's got to be just for Hannah or I, because he's allergic, and we don't do too much baking, which is usually where you use your eggs. So yeah, ours do actually sit around for a little bit, and it's kind of hit or miss if we're using them or not using them.
We'll just do a little bit of an unboxing.
Okay, there we go. Live unboxing.
Live unboxing. It's actually a really nice padded case that's in there, and of course some instructions that go with it like this. And Mike, I am not going to lie, this is a beautifully designed egg holder.
It actually does look really nice.
No, it really is. That your lid comes off like that. This is beautiful. And then eggs in there, they light up when you put it in there. There's a place in the back for your battery. I imagine it takes a AA battery that's probably dead by now because I haven't used this thing. A manual on-off switch on the back to turn it on. QWERTY is what this QURKY quirky egg thing. I'm actually try this again. Like,
yeah,
it's beautiful. Look at that. So we give it a try.
Okay, so what are some other use cases? I'm trying to think, like,
meth, or you're cooking meth and you can put it in here.
Well, I'm thinking of like, okay, I'm running low on something else, like golf balls, shotgun shells. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of like other things that would fit in there that you would need to count and use. I can't think of anything right now, but I don't know. There's got to be other use cases. Bath bombs
or just eggs.
Bath bombs.
Yeah, bath bombs. Right? Yeah, bath bombs would work, or just eggs. Actually, I think it'll work.
It was made for.
I think it'll work. These things, this whole idea of packaging being so elegant, thank you, Apple, for now forcing everybody to create elegant packaging. Like, I tried to put my Apple Watch box back together. No, it requires a PhD in box folding.
It's like origami getting that thing back together.
It's like, holy cow, this design has gotten a little carried away. So we'll give, I still may give this quirky a try up there. It was just funny that I found that. Couple updates too. Maybe I spoke a little too soon on the Shopco earbud AirPods, right? That I bought. I bought these earbuds. They were called, what were they called? Let's see. What did Shopco call them? HomePods? No, something crazy. It was a total ripoff, right? And they were $40. I didn't give them a very good review, and I said I was going to take them back. And then I was at Shopco, and they were like, no returns, because the store's closing, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, what am I going to do now? Well, I guess I'll just use them. So I put them in my bag, my gym bag, and I've been wearing them 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times at the gym. And actually, they're not as bad as I thought they were.
Really?
So yeah,
not losing connection as often as they were.
Yeah, well, so I get in the gym, put them in, push one down, it pairs, and it pairs quickly. Like, hold it down, it says on, pairing complete, like that.
Okay,
well, that's interesting. Push the other one, it says teaming complete. So now they're teamed together.
Right.
Put on YouTube, still awful latency between the two. Phone calls are still only in one ear and not two, which is interesting. So when I'm listening to messages or whatever back, that's okay. I don't do a lot of phone calls anyway, so it's not a big deal. But sound has been great. Portability has been great. Charges have been great. Sound, good enough that it gets me through. So, what I first kind of thought was, man, I just wasted $40. It was really 38. I'm kind of thinking like, well, okay, for the cheap guy like me at times, this isn't so bad. Like if you don't want to drop the 140 on AirPods, this could be a good alternative. And they look just like it. Everybody's like, oh, hey, you got new AirPods. And I'm like, actually, they're ripoffs. They are definitely ripoffs. But Mike, I wouldn't, I wouldn't, they're not, okay, this is not a $140 pair of AirPods.
Right. Trust me. But if you know that going in, if you've got that understanding and they're $40 ones, then if they get the job done, they get the job done. And I think for a lot of people, if you're not watching YouTube, if you're just listening to music, obviously the delay is not even an issue.
Yeah. Right. No, you don't even know. Podcasts, music, you don't even know. So I may turn that review around a little bit. And if you're thinking of some, if you want to go that route, you need them for that. And, you're willing to take a little less quality. Maybe not a bad option. I'm not telling you to run out to the Shopko site and buy them, although they are cheap right now. Because Shopko's going to go out of business. There will be no returns. I'm just warning you. If you do that, there will be no returns on those. But definitely worth the $40. So super cool. Mike, are you okay? You were super still. I thought for sure you were locked up.
No, not locked up. No, it's like overtime of the Creighton game, and I'm sorry. I keep drifting down.
No,
Creighton, it's Villanova. Big game for Creighton. I just keep drifting down, getting caught on that game.
Got a new twist on HelloFresh, but do you have anything else to add before we wrap this up and everybody just turns it off because I'm going to talk about HelloFresh? But don't, because I have a twist.
Word. Now they're all right. Fast forward. Done.
Don't. I got an interesting twist. Anything else to add?
No, I want to hear about what's new with
this twist. All right. So we were, of course, as we've been cooking a lot more with HelloFresh. Sarah is a big Pampered Chef user, and if you know Pampered Chef, it's really good stuff. Like there's nothing like cutting an onion or garlic or whatever, chopping it up with their chopper. They have this little hand chopper, put it down, hit that thing about 20 times, done. Like super cool. We have all their measuring gadgets. I mean, we have tons of gadgets from Pampered Chef, and I didn't realize how helpful they were until I was the one starting to do the chopping, right? And then you're like, oh man, now I can see why people buy these fancy knives and this chopper and all these other things, pizza stones. And we had a big pan that we had for 15 years, and we just wore it out. And I was going to buy a new one for her. And so I went to our Pampered Chef gal at work, and I'm like, hey, can I buy a new one? She's like, what's wrong with the old one? I said, well, it's kind of worn out. She's like, no, those are guaranteed for life. She's like, I'll get you an RMA. So that afternoon I had an email like, here's your RMA number, send the thing in. Now these are $200 pans, right?
Yeah.
So we boxed it up, we sent it in. I thought, there's no way they're going to take this thing. Nope. Week later, brand new pan. I was like, holy cow. Like, okay. Like this is legit. Great customer service, back up everything they do. So it's like, okay, I mean, I'm going to give that rep something for that. Like, so I go to her and I'm like, hey, I need to buy a pizza stone. And she's like, actually, we're running deals on pizza stones right now. And if you do a party, I'm like, I don't want people that come over. She said, no, just do it online. We'll just set you up a store. We'll just run it for 2 weeks. Anybody that buys stuff through it gets, you'll get credit for that. And I was like, okay, that sounds interesting. So I'm going to do this for her. This is kind of what I'm doing it for her, because she's a friend of mine. But if guys or gals, if you're big Pampered Chef fans, and you should be, actually, there's a lot of cooking gadgetry and nerdery that exists inside Pampered Chef. Like I did not realize, Mike, like just the nerdery that goes on around cooking. With those guys.
And the quality, Jim, we kind of recently got into cast iron. I think I might have talked about this. My sister got us a cast iron pot for Christmas. And since then we have bought the cast iron skillet. Things that last a long time and with warranties like that lifetime warranty, I mean, that is worth the money. I think we live in a world now with the cheap Amazon, buy it, use it for a year, it goes bad, buy another one later, who cares about it? But man, some of that stuff, Jim, just like you said, you had that pan already for 15 years. then you get a brand new one. You didn't pay a dime more. Like that $200 back then, you haven't spent any more money on any pan since then. And you just got another one that's probably going to last another 15 years. Right. So it's pretty cool.
Since I've been doing these HelloFresh commercials here at the end, I've been hearing from people via email, and they're like, yeah, I do a lot of cooking. I do a lot of the cooking too. Or like, hey, does this really save you that much time? Or those kinds of things. And so, gentlemen and ladies that are out there, I know you're doing this. So for a friend of mine, or we're going to do a little Pampered Chef party, completely virtual. You don't need to go anywhere. You don't need to cook anything or whatever. We have set up a site for you. If you just go to pamperedchef.com/party/Jim Collison. Super easy to remember. Again, no pressure here. It's only going to be open for a week or two. So if you're listening to the live version of it, you got a while. But if you're listening to the recorded version of it, it's not going to be around forever. We're going to kind of run this thing out pretty quick. Just get it done. I don't want to be pimping this thing forever. I'm going to buy a pizza stone out of the deal. Which we just love their pizza stones. Mike, they have this deep dish pizza stone too. Like if you're into deep dish pizza, it's the stone on the bottom and then the sides where you can kind of build
really?
up. Oh, dude. Yeah, I may get one just for me.
Well, I'm on the site now. I'm kind of looking at.
Yeah,
we did pizza stone too.
Pretty great. If you're a pizza fan, John Big sent me a picture. He had made a pizza lasagna thing this last weekend. He calls himself Hello John, by the way. That's what he started. That's what he started doing because they talk about HelloFresh so much. So pamperedchef.com/party/Jim Collison if you want to get in on that. Anything's appreciated. Again, I'm just doing this for my friend because she did such a great job of helping me out. Get that pan replaced. I kind of want to repay her just in business for it. So if you're thinking about buying something, maybe you got a birthday coming up. We kind of miss Christmas, but that's okay. Get it for next Christmas. One of those kinds of things. They have got all kinds of cooking geekery that is pretty great. You've been listening to the show for any length of time. You know we're grill nerds. You know we're barbecue nerds. You know we're food nerds. And we love the kitchen guts. I mean, God's sakes, I have an egg minder sitting right behind me, right?
Yeah.
So love to have you do it. Again, don't forget pamperedchef.com/party/Jim Collison. If you want to jump in on the HelloFresh, I get plenty of coupons all the time. Just let me know. Jim@theaverageguy.tv. I'll ship you a little code. You can either get, I still think I have a bunch of coupons for completely free or $40 and I get 30, whatever you want to do. I'd love to have you take advantage of it. Mike, I actually, with Sarah out, we haven't been cooking together. I actually have 3 HelloFresh meals sitting in the fridge right now that I think are going to be Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night.
The entire weekend.
No, right on. I got the weekend covered, which is pretty great. We did Chinese tonight because I got out of work so late, and I have to cook right now while Sarah recovers. We are live every Thursday, except this week, we're Wednesday. We're live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at the Average Guy. .tv live. A few crypto updates. Don't go away. Don't go running off. This isn't scary. In fact, I have some. No, I don't have any good news on crypto. We will stay around for a little post-show crypto. With that, we'll say goodnight, everybody.